First things first, Leon, how are you?
I'm great, great. Thank you.
Good to hear. So, before we get into your new record, there's something. It's a little bit self-indulgent because I like it myself. But you did a song with Gary Clark Jr. and Jon Batiste, Ohio, and I wanted to know: is there anything you took away from working with these two people? Kind of their experience. Did you ask about tips about the industry, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, in that whole session, I was really just inspired by, I mean, how talented those guys are, and how quick they were about like bringing ideas to the table. But honestly, it was just a great hang. It was really dope to have those guys in my city, Fort Worth, and everything was super spontaneous. We just kind of improv the whole session, but it was just a beautiful session.
Because the reason why I ask is I see a lot of similarities between kind of how Gary Clark was perceived, especially early on in his career, and how you were perceived early on. Do you see that same similarity?
Man, I see. Yeah, I do see some similarities there. Gary was kind of put in this box as this like retro blues dude, and but he's definitely bigger than that. That's just the label that was put on him, and and I received the same thing, which was my reason for wanting to push my sound forward.
Was there a specific moment where you kind of felt, I really need to do something different? Because I know the Roots Picnic Festival was kind of a turning point for you as well.
Yeah, Roots Picnic was a turning point for me. There were many turning points, but it was like for my first time at the Grammys, and I was sitting with my producer Austin Jenkins, and we were just inspired by the whole thing, just seeing like what it took to get to that position, and seeing and within ourselves that we were capable of doing that and still stay true to ourselves, and that was kind of the turning point. And I remember telling each other that day, we were like, the album is not going to be done until there's blood on the mics. And so that was kind of the whole thing behind it.
But so that hardworking mentality that's always been there, not to rest on your laurels, as they say.
Yeah, I mean, and I've always had that mentality, but I feel like there was a certain time where I got complacent and was like everything was going great, and it would have made sense. It would have made sense to make another album that was the same, similar to my first album. I would have done great off of that, but I wanted to set new goals, and I wanted more than that.
So how soon did your, because we are pretty much the same age. I think we kind of grew up in the 90s. So how much did that part of your childhood kind of influence the record?
Man, I mean, everything from Terrence Trent D'Arby to Anita Baker to, oh man, just the whole essence of what R&B is what influenced it. I wanted to bring R&B back to what it should be, and I feel like I achieved that in the first album. But in this one, I wanted to kind of make something that reflected all this different styles of R&B that I love.
Because was it difficult that people saw you a certain way, that they, like you mentioned about Gary Clark, that they pigeonholed you in a way?
Yeah. Honestly, it just, all those comparisons it was, flattering that people would compare me to those guys, but it didn't really do justice to who I am as an artist.
Right.
And I felt that like creating that sound, the 60s R&B sound for the rest of my career, would have put me in this whole zone of being a novelty act. And yeah, and I didn't want to be that.
Sure. And especially I can imagine that you wanted to show, like you mentioned, different facets of your personality, of your identity. And part of this, and we can get into it as much as you like, but you said that you were, and I mentioned the Roots Picnic Festival, you were surprised that black people didn't necessarily find something in your music at that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was surprised at the time. I came into the whole thing into that festival really excited, to be able to share, my music with my people, and they just weren't, that crowd just wasn't enthusiastic, as I thought that they would be, and it was kind of hard because we had just got off of this long, dope tour where we, had lots of great moments, great crowds, and to get to that thing, and people just weren't vibing with it. But it's not a question of black people not liking my music. It's just the nature of my music. Right. It's a sound that's not popular within black music.
Right.
Currently.
And obviously hip hop has grown to this phenomenal
totally
thing. So do you think this record is closer to that sound in a way?
It is closer, but still, it's closer, but still kind of like an outsider thing, because like if you're not doing a hip hop thing or a Bryson thing, it's still hard to pull people. But I think people are wanting something refreshing, and I see, and I think that's kind of testament to the uniqueness of the music.
Well, I was going to say, because is it then due to kind of a generation gap in a way, that the music of Sam Cooke and those kind of guys is so far removed from what youth culture is in today? Totally,
and it's definitely a gap. But I think culturally, we're within black culture, we're just not taught to champion and respect roots. Our roots. Within white cultures, like they're taught that Beatles, the Rolling Stones, that's legendary, and they kind of carry that on with them. But even, I would say the younger generation still is far removed from it. Doesn't matter black or white, right. But that is a thing. And then, I think you mentioned it as well, this record is quite eclectic, and there's elements of jazz, soul, funk, all kinds of things. So when you started writing, did you have a kind of an image of okay, we're going down this road now? It was an interesting process. When I got off the road, coming home for 3 years, I had a lot of songs I had been writing and recorded those, and they were closer to coming home, but still different. Felt like that wasn't enough, so we shifted, and my guys from back home and kind of encouraged me to kind of go in this to take this other batch of songs and give them an 80s and 90s treatment production wise, and so that was kind of like what sparked this whole thing. Okay. And so we went out to LA and basically started from scratch to see if we could beat everything that we wrote back home. Okay. Because I read that people like Usher, obviously, but R. Kelly and D'Angelo. So did you look at specific artists in a way
some of their records were produced and kind of looked at the sound?
I didn't. And but I mean, the whole process was collaborative, and so if you look at to production, I mean, that is that's pointed to Nate Mercereau and Ricky Reed and the Now City Sound guys. But as far as like my approach, like melodically, that was just kind of what I was feeling at the time. Okay.
Because I think it's fair to say you're still very much a young artist in a way, because it's only been a couple of years. So that I assume your songwriting is developing all the time. So once you've kind of decided we're going down this other road, this is more jazzy, more funky, more R&B, did your writing change? The way you approached it?
Yeah, it did, because before getting into this, I had never collaborated with different people, and honestly, I had never written at the pace that we did. We would write a song in about 8 hours a day, and honestly, went through this whole process. You know, I was really painting myself in a light that, you know, made me very vulnerable, and I had never been that open to writing that way before.
And there's a lot of material on relationships, on love. So can I assume then that those are all very close to home?
They are. I mean, it does paint me in the light of being a super romantic person, and I do believe in that. But honestly, I'm still playing the field, you know. But you know, it just speaks about moments in my life where I felt that way. But overall, you know, it's about creating a vibe for other people to connect to.
Because that's an interesting thing. Do you want people to listen to it at a certain time or in a certain mind space?
Yeah. I mean, I just look at it as just making a dope song, and people will be drawn to it if it's a dope song. But I look at it as within the R&B genre and almost music in general, nobody really writes from that perspective. And so I knew that if I could create that kind of vibe, then people would be drawn to it.
Was there one song that exemplifies what you just mentioned really well?
Yeah, you look at songs like Beyond. You know, speaking of love in that way, and the possibility of you know, somebody you meet and you fall in love with, in the possibility of spending the rest of your life with them. That's from a place that was kind of hard for me to put into a song, but I feel like it's something that other people want to hear.
That's interesting, because she also mentioned you're still playing field. I mean, you're relatively young, so. But there's a line in that song in Beyond. I'm scared to death she might be it.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's just like, you know, being a young person and traveling. You know, I meet a lot of awesome women, but there's been times to where I've run across that one gal who. Her vibe was more than just being a one night stand thing, and feeling that I could feel the feeling of being able to trust that woman with and being able to trust her and being with her forever. You know?
Right. And so at the same time then, because you say that what you kind of want to achieve is people to get that feeling as well, to be able to relate. So have you heard stories from people about the new music?
Oh yeah, it's incredible. It's really cool to hear stuff like, oh man, your song Coming Home was our wedding song, but I wish this song Beyond was our wedding song. You know, came out 2 years too late, but yeah, it's amazing. and one thing I love seeing is how it's so diverse across the board, even more so than my first project, and that was kind of one of my goals as well. Is to have it, to be able to gain a more diverse audience. But I love seeing everybody from black people to white people to yellow, green, everybody.
Final question: what getting people to dance? What role does that play? Getting people to move on the dance floor.
Yeah, I think it's people want to dance, and for every there's a time and place for everything. But with this project, I wanted to make something that was just undeniable, and I wanted the DJs to be able to drop it, in their set, and I wanted to have the opportunity to be played on all radio platforms, but also maintain my integrity. I wanted people to dance more with this project.
Leon, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.